morning, everyone. So here we are today. We are on lesson 5 of our mindfulness lessons, and today we're going to talk about ogres in fairy tales and learn how to count our breath. So I want you to think back when you were younger and you were maybe reading picture books with your family, or maybe if you have younger siblings, maybe you still do read picture books to your family, to your little siblings. But a lot of those stories, there'd sometimes be this big scary monster or an ogre. And as you got to know that person, if usually the main character starts to have courage and they're brave and they get closer to this monster, maybe they get to know the monster, they face that monster usually would become small, wouldn't become so scary. Sometimes you'd find out that monster was scared itself. So this is similar to those big, scary, monstery feelings and emotions we have inside us. They can seem big, they can seem scary. Our feelings and emotions, because we don't necessarily pay attention to them, we don't know them. So as we practice mindfulness, we start to understand, we start to get the courage to get a little bit closer to those feelings and those emotions inside us, get a little bit closer and to analyze them, to see them. And as we get closer, sometimes they get scarier, and that's okay. But also as we get closer and we see them, it becomes a lot easier to accept them for just what they are, with their emotions, their feelings. They are us. And so they lose a bit of that power of being those big scary monsters inside of us, and they just become part of us and acknowledge that, okay, they're here. So our tummy time today, our lesson, is going to be about counting our breaths. So counting our breaths is a way to help us stay focused on our breathing, right? We talked about how our minds like to just wander here, there, everywhere. That is normal. So one of the ways that we can help focus on our breaths, besides just being on our anchor spot, is actually counting the breath. Okay? So right now, if you can get in your mindful bodies, however you're comfortable, if your feet are on the ground, if you're sitting in a chair, or if you're sitting cross-legged, whatever works for you, just make sure your back is straight. You're giving your lungs all that space to really breathe in and get that oxygen. And right now, before we go fully into our moment, I just want you to practice breathing. We're just going to breathe in and out through our nose, right? So we're breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out, right? So when our breath has two parts, right now we're just going to talk about two parts, the breathing in and the breathing out. But that is just one breath. So when we're counting our breaths, that's what we're counting. So it's 1, 2, 3, and so on. In my head, when I'm breathing, I can't say it how I would do it, but I actually kind of extend the 1 for a long time. So I'm breathing in and out, but in my head, I'm just thinking 1. I can't say 1 and breathe in and breathe out. It doesn't work out. So in my head, that's what I do for myself. You don't have to do that. Other things are using your hand to count, even if you don't have to have it up like this, even if you just have it on your knee or on your anchor spot and just kind of like putting a little bit more pressure on your thumb for 1, your pointer finger for 2, right? So play with it, see what works for you. So right now, I'm going to invite you to sit up straight and tall. Find your anchor spot wherever was comfortable for your hand placement to really notice your breath, whether your chest or your belly, or maybe resting your hands on your knees and just noticing the in and out through your nose, whatever works for you. And we're going to gently close our eyes if we're comfortable. And we're going to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And I'm going to give you just a minute to just be with yourself and just practice counting your breath. See what you notice. See how high you can get. If you get distracted, that's okay. Just start back at 1. And when the time is done, I'll ring my bell and we'll come back together. So now just count your breath. You can open your eyes. Okay. So, how did that go? What number were you able to get to? Again, if your mind wandered, if thoughts kept popping in and you couldn't get past 2, that's okay. That is very normal, so do not worry. That's why it's a practice, right? That's why it's tummy time. It seems simple, but it really is kind of painful and awkward for a lot of people, so do not worry. So our minds just jump around, right? They jump from thought to thought. That's what our brains do, and that's okay. So we're gonna try again, and this time, just simply return to your anchor. Anytime that you notice that your mind starts wandering, try to practice again that noting of our thoughts if you can. So for example, if I'm sitting here in my own personal mindful moment and I'm counting my breaths, and in my head I'm saying 1, 2, and so on. But then at like halfway through 3, my brain starts thinking about all the things I need to do today or tomorrow, whatever it is. Then I would just be like worrying, then try to focus my attention back on my anchor spot, just noticing where I'm feeling the breath, and get back to counting. Okay? So I'm going to give you another minute to practice this again. And again, at the end, just listen for the sound of the bell and come back to me. Okay, so we're finding our mindful bodies, resting our hands on our anchor spot it helps keep us grounded, right? Remember, like an anchor on a boat keeps us from moving too far. So that's the point of it. So wherever you feel your breath the most, rest your hands, gently close your eyes if you're comfortable, and just start counting your breath, your own rhythm, whatever works for you. Try to listen to the whole sound of the bell. When you cannot hear the sound anymore, open your eyes. Okay. So I hope maybe you're able to get to a little bit of a higher number the second round, but if not, again, totally okay. So this week, a bit of your homework is to practice this every day. Just try to practice counting your breaths if you can. And then again, I'll have journal questions down below that you can answer as you feel. So I love you all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week.